Hi, I'm Nicole Ferraro, and this is The Divide, a podcast from Light Reading exploring the ongoing digital divide, why and where it still exists, and what needs to be done to get people everywhere connected to reliable, high-speed internet. Today, I'm joined by Marissa Mitrovich, Vice President of Public Policy at the Fiber Broadband Association. We discuss the progress made by the fiber broadband industry in the last several years to close broadband access gaps across the country and the factors contributing to that fiber growth. We also get into what's happening with the $42 billion BEAD program, what the ongoing program pause means for providers, and the discussions that the Fiber Broadband Association is having with the Trump administration about getting that program moving again. Finally, we discuss the main themes of this week's Fiber Connect conference taking place in Nashville, Tennessee. Marissa, welcome to the podcast. It's great to see you again. How's it going today?
It's going great. Thanks for having me, Nicole. Glad to be back in touch with you.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. I don't think you've been on the podcast before. I could be wrong. But just in case anyone is unfamiliar with you, why don't you introduce yourself and what you do at the Fiber Broadband Association?
That's right. I haven't joined the podcast, so I'm very happy to be here with you today. My name's Marissa Mitrovich. I had public policy for the Fiber Broadband Association. In my role, I oversee state, federal, local engagement related to policy and have been with the organization about 2.5 years. It's been a crazy, wild time, and it's really exciting to be a part of the industry right now.
Yes, indeed. So we're going to talk about the state of fiber broadband in the country today and the BEAD program we'll get into a little bit later. But just to level set here, I was hoping you could just share with me your perspective on the progress that we've made toward closing the broadband access digital divide with fiber in the last, let's say 5 or 10 years. How much growth have we seen in the last several years? What do we know about the progress the fiber industry has made toward connecting homes and businesses? And are there particular states and regions where we've had more success versus others? Just love to get your general perspective on where we are with fiber access at this point.
Sure. Happy to dive in, provide a little bit of that information. So to date, we reported out every year, the Fiber Broadband Association puts out an annual report of the industry, the state of the industry, with one of our research partners. And so we know 76.5 million homes have been passed with fiber. That's a lot of households. That's about 56.5% of the U.S. households. So we've made great progress. We still have more progress we need to make. And we don't see our members, and for the people on this call, our members consist of large providers, co-ops, tribes, municipalities, CLECs. So we have the entire tent of providers in addition to manufacturers. And so we really get to work with everyone who's trying to come up with a solution to provide fiber connectivity for the residents in their communities. So we see that there's a lot of forward motion. And when we've heard the publicly traded companies talk about in their most recent earnings calls, the growth in fiber, the growth of fiber subscriptions, it's all been a really positive story, as is the intent to continue to deploy fiber that we hear. So that all is great. I think in 2024 alone, we passed 10.3 million households. That is a really high number. I think we expect to see something similar again this year. The take rates have increased. So we know that customers want fiber, and we also know that the fiber is becoming readily available. The other thing I'll say, which is a great story, is there's about 1,900 fiber providers in the United States. 1,000 are tied to electric co-ops and others, which is the municipalities. So that leaves 900 other ones, which could be made up of the larger corporations, the mid-sized providers. Some have been acquired by private equity. We're seeing really different models right now. And so there is, I say all of that to say there's a lot of diversity of the types of providers, and that has increased. And we see that as a positive and a win for consumers as well.
Yeah, absolutely. To just a couple of quick follow-ups to that. You mentioned private equity. You mentioned a lot of activity in 2024. What do you see as driving a lot of the fiber activity in the country? Has it been really a mix of things between private equity getting involved and, federal and state subsidies, or is it that there's growing interest with consumers more these days in having fiber connectivity? What's helping to spur all of this momentum?
So I'm coming at it from a public policy perspective, but what we know is we all experience, and you probably talk about this every podcast you do, Nicole, but we saw in the pandemic that there was this absolutely critical need to have reliable high-speed internet. And I think that was this moment where we as consumers also realized, wait, this is something we need. This is something we want. We want to have options. We want to have something reliable. So I think that people are responding to where there's a market, right? Businesses are in business because they have something to sell that people want to buy. I think that is where this starts. I also think innovation has driven this as well. We're seeing a huge focus on AI right now. Fiber is the economic and technological backbone of AI. AI uses a tremendous amount of data, and it needs that seamless connection that is not only uploads but downloads and speeds. And so we know that there's a focus on being able to support other business models, which is going to propel into day in and day out app uses and what we do in our households. So I think that's a lot of it. But ultimately, really, it's the need for something reliable, and we don't have a lot of time to be down. I'm working from home. I'm on a computer call with you. I need and I think everyone's there right now, needing with the same need, the reliability. What do we do if we can't search it up on the internet and get the answer immediately? I mean, we're just stumped, and we're not sure how to respond to situations anymore without having our internet right there readily available. So I think a lot of it stems from just what the demand is and what the need is.
Yeah, that makes sense. And just one more question, because you mentioned your research that you guys put out, and I know that you all had put out some research earlier in May with RVA, talking about some of the regions that have accelerated their fiber deployments, and some others where it's been a little bit harder. It noted that Rhode Island and North Dakota lead the nation with their fiber to the home deployments. Is there anything that you guys took away from that survey that's worth noting here?
I should also say RVA is the research partner that the information I provided at the top of the hour is. So wanted to clarify that. But yeah, I think what you see, so I think North Dakota, especially, I don't know regionally, they're they're obviously very different locations, but North Dakota specifically, I think there's a large co-op presence. There's a large understanding and organized way of how they serve the residents of North Dakota and the terrain. And so I think there's geographic implications as well as the types of providers that are serving the community. And maybe that's why they're a little bit further ahead. I think, when we think about also just the population versus a state like California,
Right.
then I think it's always a little bit easier to get to consensus and achieve, certain outcomes when there's less people at the table.
That's for sure. Yes. So you mentioned, that you come at all of this from a public policy perspective. So let's roll into one of the biggest topics for the industry at the moment, which is the state of the BEAD program, the $42 billion broadband equity access and deployment program. I don't know if I can legally say equity anymore, but it's my podcast, so I did. So the BEAD program, as you know, of course, was essentially put on hold in March of this year. The Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, and it said he intended to conduct a rigorous review of the program, strip out a lot of the requirements that the Biden administration had put on it, but also to potentially make it a more tech neutral program. And we haven't seen those rules yet, or at least I haven't. I don't know if you have, but the expectation is that there's going to be, some number that makes. Whereas fiber was previously the priority for the program, unless it was prohibitively too expensive to reach certain locations with fiber, it seems like we might be doing an opposite version of that based on chatter in the industry about how the administration might be coming at BEAD rules. There had been speculation, and the president had indicated as much that there was a desire to spend more of this money on low Earth orbit satellite like Starlink. So at the moment, the program remains on pause. We await some word from the administration on how we can move forward with BEAD. And meanwhile, all these states that were ready to start moving forward, awarding their service providers, the states that had already awarded their service providers are sort of left in waiting, which for local communities means that small service providers, small contractors kind of have to wait around for work that they expected to be able to start. So that's, a lot of background information on where we are and a little bit of editorializing on my part. But I wanted to turn to you and get a sense of what's your perspective on where we are with the BEAD program? What are your concerns at the Fiber Broadband Association about both the pause and the potential policy changes upcoming? And what are you hearing from your members? Like I mentioned, local providers and contractors on the ground who are sort of, needing some kind of direction. I've, read letters from contractors who've said they've had to start laying off, construction firms that have had to start laying off workers, contractors, and such. So this pause has ramifications for providers on the ground. So I'll shut up and let you let me know what your perspective is on the state of things at the moment, where you think it's going, and what you're hearing.
Sure. There is a lot to unpack, and a lot that Fiber Broadband Association and our members are thinking about in response to the pause with the BEAD program, modifications that we have not yet seen. I know we're expecting BEAD reform sometime soon, but everything right now I think is speculation, and so I'm trying really hard to encourage our members of FBA to go by the conversations they're having with the administration, the conversations they're having with leaders, state broadband leaders, and really not try to, as hard as it is, not get too wrapped up in this rumor mill, because there's just so many ideas floating around right now. And we don't know exactly where this is going to come out. To your point, yes, there has been a mention that there's going to be it will be a tech neutral approach. But yet we don't know what tech neutral means to this administration. I think we know it means every technology is going to have an option. We won't see the way that fiber was the preferred technology that we saw in the original NOFO. That said, I think we feel confident by the conversations we have had. And I want to be really clear, this administration has reached out to the Fiber Broadband Association. We have been talking with them. They are talking with our members, and they have been listening to what we're saying. Where, again, we still don't know where things are going to shake out. But I want to say that amidst all the concerns, we are having regular conversations to explain the various implications. So I think there's a few things. I do think there's going to be some reforms that we hopefully will like to see and want to see. There's been the original NOFO had components that maybe were going to delay build out, and maybe redundancies in National Historic Preservation Act or National Environmental Protection Act. There was also various other concerns about the way the NOFO was written, and that would maybe not allow as many people to participate. So our goal is to represent our members and make sure as many who want to participate can participate. And as far as the technology neutrality, we are encouraged that fiber will still have a large role. This administration, in addition to wanting to allow for other technologies to have a seat at the table, has also been very outspoken about the need to invest in our economy, the need to create jobs, the need to have American-made products. And really that's what the Fiber Broadband Association's members have done. BEAD is a catalyst for investment. And so we've seen manufacturers who have onshored their manufacturing operations and jobs. We did a survey of our members, the manufacturing members who comply with the BEAD BABA guidelines. And to date that they have invested, and this is not all of the members responding, but this is many of the members responding who comply. Just those members alone, it's about $670 million of investment to date through the onshoring. It's about 5,700 new jobs have been created. This is all before the program starts. However, that was all done with the intent that there will be more fiber builds. There will be a robust BEAD program, and that the builds will start soon. So to your question, our members are very concerned about delays. I think right now, we are going to be in, beginning of June. We hope we'll see guidance from NTIA sometime in June. But the 90-day pause ends in July. And many of our members and providers they're gonna lose build seasons. And so I think that's a reality we're now having to deal with and face. And that does stall the stimulus of the program and all of the benefits of the investment. So do I think that we're going to see some guidance soon? Yeah. And I think fiber will be right there at the table. I think, and I remain optimistic in that based on conversations I'm having. But I think what we would encourage is really to remember why fiber was the preferred technology. And that is this whole greater story of, you build the network, that's jobs, that's investment. Manufacturers are making products. That's jobs in the US. That's you then are deploying and so that's supporting their businesses. That's part of it. Then you also have the access and adoption part of it too. So we want to make sure that it gets places where people can access it, they can afford to adopt it, and there's a customer base, and that's what this program has identified, that these are areas that have not had high-speed reliability, and so the providers are there, and that's part of the overall business model. And then, and this all depends on this capable workforce and domestic manufacturing capacity and healthy public-private relationships. But this program is intended to be stimulus to the American economy. And that is the one thing I encourage the administration to always remember, right? That is what we want. And we also, the investment. We are pushing fiber. We are the Fiber Broadband Association. Of course we're pushing fiber.
Yeah.
Right?
It's not a surprise. Yeah.
No surprise. We're not burying the lead. But we definitely, we know that it's the most reliable and it's the most future proof. And that you don't have to go back and replace it in 5 years. We know this is a sustainable, reliable technology. And when we started this conversation, we talked about why I think fiber is being deployed, why we're seeing people invest in it. And it's just simply because it really is a strong investment and it makes a lot of sense. And back to the customer who plays a huge role in this, it's what the customer needs, and not only do they need the high speed, the capability, but it's that reliable piece.
Yeah. Okay, I know we only have a couple more minutes here, so I wanted to ask you one of the things that kept the BEAD program on a long timeline was broadband mapping. It was in the law that BEAD funds had to be allocated according to the FCC's new broadband map, which didn't exist when the infrastructure law was passed creating BEAD. And it took another year or so to actually finish the map, which is never finished, but whatever. The question for you is, what have we learned about the complication of broadband mapping in the United States through that process, especially given going into that process, the narrative was that our existing broadband maps were terrible. I'm not sure how we feel about what we've ended up with, but what did we learn through that process?
Yeah, I think there's certainly differing views on this mapping process. I will stand by that was a necessary investment. I do believe it will serve us well for the long term. With the tools that were in place, and having not done something as comprehensive ever at the level, the granular level that these maps get to, I think. There was a lot of stakeholders at the table. That was helpful. I know there was a lot of agencies at the table. We also appreciate the states were at the table. And through challenge processes, we were able to hear from multiple people. I think we are better off for the maps we have now. And so are we going to continue? I mean, a map that we see today, tomorrow it's going to maybe be different, right? We know that maps are always, there's chances they're always changing, but what we do have today is way better than what we had when we started the process. And what I think was positive about this is that there were so many stakeholders brought into the mix.
So last question for you then is, I know you guys are about to head into your Fiber Connect conference in Nashville. I'm pretty sure my colleague Jeff is going to be there. So anything you want to tell us about what's going to be going on at Fiber Connect this year, what your focus is, what your members are hoping to hear about? What can you tell us about the week?
Oh yeah, this is the most exciting part of the conversation because you're right. We're kicking off Fiber Connect, which is FBA's annual conference. We expect about 5,000 plus people down in Nashville, Tennessee. This year's theme is called Light It Up, which is, awesome way to talk about fiber. Moves at the speed of light. It is a light. So I think it's fun. And we're talking about lighting up communities, connecting homes, families, the power of lighting up networks with fiber. As far as in my space, I think we're going to see a lot. We have people from gubernatorial offices who are going to speak. We have the FCC who will show up. We have some senators who are going to attend. We're really excited from a policy perspective to hear those perspectives. We also have Sean Evans, who I don't know if you know the Nashville. He has the celebrities on, and how hot of the hot sauce on they.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
So I know I'm not saying it right, but I've watched it a million times. So he's going to have
hot ones, right?
Hot ones.
Hot ones, yeah.
It wasn't coming to me, but yes. So we're going to have the hot seat, which is like totally fun. But really, I think where our members are, and to end this on a serious note, is we are coming together because there is a lot of opportunity in the fiber industry right now. As I mentioned, there's a lot of investment ahead. We have, there's so many technologies that are going to rely upon the backbone of this fiber infrastructure. And as you mentioned, we will have state broadband leaders there. We will have government officials. We have community leaders. So these are all people who, along with the manufacturers and the providers of broadband, we are waiting for this BEAD guidance, and we are optimistic and hopeful because we're ready to make that investment. And the states have done a lot of work to prepare, and we want them to just be able to move ahead and carry out these programs. Our goal is to connect every American with fiber, and we know there's a lot of benefit to doing that. So that will be really, as I go in, I'll be listening a lot, but I think we will hear a lot on that topic and just how exciting it is and how important it's going to be to have this public-private partnership.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Marissa. It's great to chat with you. Good luck at the show. I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thank you so much. Thank you again for having me. It's great to see you. And yes, always look forward to catching up again.
Thank you again, Marissa, for joining me. Thank you as well to Pierre Landriau for editing this episode. Be sure to subscribe to the Light Reading Podcast for more episodes of The Divide, as well as interviews and insights from the Light Reading team. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.